The Yongjin Zhisu is a 56mm 4x4. So it's the same size as a 3x3, but I think most people would already know this. What I'm going to show instead is the inner to outer layer ratio. The outer layer is 14.6 and the inner layer is 13.4. And this gives the Zhisu the biggest outer to inner layer ratio compared to other top 4x4s. This is a huge welcoming factor, offering better control during edge pairing, and is a compensation for the overall small size. And as a serious main 4x4, the size and layer proportions of the Aosu WR are still the best ones in my opinion, but for the purposes of making a mini 4x4, I think the Zhisu's proportions do the job very well. Even then, I have not found a 56mm 4x4 to be uncomfortably small to grip. When I first heard about this cube, I was expecting it to be more of a novelty item or a specialized cube for those with smaller hands, but after getting used to it and solving on this thing for real, it does seem to have serious main speed cube viability, like more so than its novelty. It made 56 compare with 59 in a similar way to how 60 compared with 62 in the past. In those days, 62 was the standard size and 60 is the mini. So ignoring the size and focusing on the turning quality alone, I would say that the Zhisu is actually one of the best 4x4s on the market. One thing that I'm quite sure of is that I really like it better than the MGC, even despite the 56mm size. And the question of whether I like it better than the Meilong or the Aosu WR is slightly more debatable, but I would say that a 59mm Zhisu would have fairly strong chances against those two. And speaking of 59mm Zhisu, I think that would actually have almost the same characteristics as the Aosu WR, but the main differences would be that the Zhisu would be slightly slower and heavier and more stable, while the Aosu WR would have a looser and weaker spring feeling to it. And the magnetic strength will be similar across the two of them. This is of course assuming that changing the size does not change any other characteristics of the performance, which is not always true. And based on what I remember from the MGC, it's quite a solid and stable cube, whereas like something like the Zhisu has noticeably more flex, which is my main reason for liking the Zhisu better. I'm someone who prefers to have more fluidity in my turning. So the forward corner cutting on the Zhisu is slightly over a QB, which I would say, comparing with the other three cubes that I keep mentioning, it's nothing special, but it's definitely on par with them. For the reverse corner cutting, it can cut like almost a full QB, and I do think this is really amazing. The inner layers cut around one piece forward and around half reverse. Raw speed, I would say it's a decently fast cube when I first got it, and right now it's slower than my Meilong, but it's still quite a fast cube. But I would say that the speed difference is more loop than cube, because at the same time I'm testing this like combination of loops, which is the Just Loop series. It's not really a bad thing. I have gotten really amazing results with it. So my average on the Zhisu, or at least the mean of the first 40 saws I've done, is 44.83. And I also have a higher frequency of sub 40 singles than usual, which is something I don't even get on my Meilong, where I average a mid to high 45. So in a way you can say that I broke 45 using this cube. However, I do feel that I have a higher overall TPS on my Meilong, and like the difference is more so due to me recognizing a stickerless cube better as compared to a black cube with stickers on it. And I've also tried a few other Meilongs which are better than mine, especially the PVC coated one. The mechanism of the Zhisu is almost identical to that of the Yusu V2M, all the way down to the anti-stick design, but there's a few minor differences. The Zhisu, there are 2 stripes on this edge, whereas on the Yusu V2M there are 3 stripes. Basically the only other piece that has anti-stick design on it, you can tell that they look almost identical. The most different piece type between the two cubes is actually the corner. This really affects the performance of the cube. And so if you see, both corners have a 3x3 style indent where it dips inward underneath the core and it's basically round inside but squared off outside. But on the Yusu V2M you can see that the corner is much less rounded, whereas on the Zhisu it's a lot. The rounding is much more and the cut is much deeper than it is on the Yusu. And another thing about the Yusu is that it has a much thicker corner stock that is more squared off, whereas on the Zhisu it's a lot thinner and it's so round that the stock basically just looks like a circle, like in terms of like cross section. And of course, when I say this affects the performance, that's the reverse corner cutting. As a mini cube for fun, novelty, 4x4 one-handed, or for whatever reason you want to use a small cube, the Zhisu would clearly be the best mini cube because there's not that many out there. The next best mini 4x4 in line would be the 57mm Cyclone Boys Feiteng from 2017, which is 3 years ago already. And as a flagship speed cube, the Zhisu is basically the 4th cube to add to the MGC, Meilong and Aosu WR bundle.